Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today my voice still sounds like trash, but when you are teaching every single day, there's very little time for the voice to actually recover. But I did want to get a video out this morning just so that I could talk about the movie Dune, which is set to come out a little bit later this year, because I know a lot of people, especially in our live streams, have always asked about whether or not I think Dune is going to be successful or not. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that today in a more formal video. But if you like this channel and if you are here, please make sure you smash that like button, light up that fire button. If you're watching over on Odyssey, also make sure that you're subscribed to the channel with that bell notification on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. And also I want to give a huge shout out to all of the Geeks and Gamers fam out there in Las Vegas who are just rocking it right now. The Friday Night Tights crew's out there too. So I'm very, very happy to see everything going on and all the amazing things that are happening. Really wish that I could be there, but it is the first week of school and priorities are priorities. And so therefore, hopefully next year there's going to be another event, and hopefully it'll be actually during the summer and not during the school year. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk here about the movie Dune. And as you get this from theobserver.com, it says Dune could be colossal for Warner Brothers if everything goes just right. I honestly think that this is very much not really paying attention to what the trends are at the box office and what is likely going to be the fate of a movie like Dune. And you've heard me talk about this a lot on my live streams, where I honestly do not think that any major big budget film this year, and probably for the next 2 or 3 years, is going to be in a position for it to either make profit or have a guarantee at the very least of profitability. And one of the biggest reasons for that is because when you take into account these massive budgets of these films, which of course these were all greenlit prior to the pandemic, and so money was already spent, and then you add on top of that the films that were delayed for a year or even 2 years, which not only balloons sometimes production costs, but also absolutely will balloon things like marketing costs. And then you add on top of that, especially like a studio like Warner Brothers, where they decided for this year specifically to do day and date release with HBO Max and to offer it for free on HBO Max if you are a subscriber on that platform. You start to realize that not just for Warner Brothers, but for all major studios, it puts themselves in a very precarious situation because they have to be able to make back their money in a market where there are still a lot of people not going back to the cinema. This is something else I talked about months ago, how in the midst of the pandemic, you have so many people now who used to go to a theater, who used to go almost every weekend sometimes, or even at least once a month to go to a movie. And now they have been essentially trained, as it were, and almost conditioned to stay at home, to consume content at home, because movies are being released either on the same day or within 30 days of the actual theatrical release. And many people have looked at that to say, oh, it's a lot easier for me just to stay at home. I don't have to deal with the people bringing their kids to a rated R movie. I don't have to worry about people playing on their phones. I don't have to worry about the screen at the movie theater not having the correct bulb and it flickering because it's about to go out, or a speaker blowing out and the sound not sounding correct because I have my own theater system at home. You know, that's the other aspect, is that now people have been able to boost up their own home theater systems and have been able to realize, oh, I can stay at home and enjoy a film with almost the same experience in certain ways, be able to pause it whenever I want to and not miss a beat of the movie, be able to provide my own popcorn for a lot less money. And you start to realize that we're in a position now where these big budget films and all these major studios are really going to have to start to provide for and provide something that is going to actually motivate people to go out. One of the biggest things that they have to do is they have to start innovating the kind of stories that they're going to tell. They cannot simply rely on these reboots, remakes, sequels, prequels, because that is not going to be a standard by which success can be gained at this point in time. They also can't rely on spending a lot of money to make a lot of money. That may have been a workable and feasible model before all of this, but that is now no longer. It's very clear at this point that that is no longer workable. And my hope, I don't think it's going to happen because I don't trust Hollywood, but my hope is that this maybe leads to major Hollywood studios actually putting forward small budget projects, giving the control of the story into the hands of their creators, because if it's a smaller budget and if it's original stories that might actually drive people to go out, and of course a big part of it is to have it be a theatrically exclusive release, they actually have a chance of not just making their money back, but even making some net gains profits. Because right now, really the only films making any money this year are all films that are much lower budget, sub $100 million movies. Because even if you look to the most successful of the big budget films, when you take into account the money that they're making from China, or rather the lack of money that they're making from China, when you take into account the 25% cut that they actually get from it, you start to realize that even the most financially successful and the biggest box office movies of the year really even aren't all that profitable when you actually break down the overall numbers. So I want to say that in especially relationship to Dune, I don't think Dune is going to be a success. And I think that anyone, and here it's Brandon Katz over on observer.com, I don't think that they are taking these things into account. Now, he does indeed say everything has to go just right, but we have to also look at where we are right now, what money films are making right now, what is the current state of the box office, especially for bigger budget films, and there is no real indication that there is going to be some type of change between now and the time that Dune comes out to be able to have any impact. You have films like Free Guy, for instance, that are coming out this week, and I'm going to wait for tomorrow morning to do a video, because that's when we'll have the actual estimates for the weekend, because we'll have the Thursday numbers in, and that's when a lot of these projectionists will be able to actually start to break these things down and figure out what likely that film will make. But even films like that are not going to be in a position to really do all that well. But Dune does still have a little bit of time. It comes out October 22nd, so it still has a couple of months to be able to, have the theater be able to try to recover a little bit. But the biggest problem and the biggest thing holding this movie back is going to be this number right here, $165 million production budget, which is kind of amazing that a movie like Dune, especially if you've seen the trailer for it, the fact that that movie costs less than The Suicide Squad, to me is just insane. You look at the visual effects, you look at the grand scope, you look at how they've already talked about the runtime of this movie is going to be insane. I don't understand how they spent more money on a film like The Suicide Squad, where some of the visual effects look okay, but then some look like trash. And then you look to even just a trailer for a movie like Dune, and you're looking at it saying, wow, it looks like they put so much more money into this film. But again, it's still enough for them to, I think, be concerned to try to make the money back, because again, it's not just going to get the October 22nd release in theaters and in IMAX screens across the country. It's also going to be released same day on HBO Max. And though I personally, looking at the trailer for this, think this is a film that is going to be best suited for a theatrical release, a film that I know that I'm going to want to go see either on an IMAX screen or a Dolby screen if the one is available near me, which unfortunately there really isn't any at this point. It is still something where they have to make a crap ton of money in order for themselves to be able to make any type of money back in the long run. And right now, as you can see, the actual theatrical release, as far as internationally is concerned, doesn't really seem to mention anything as far as China at this point in time. And obviously, a lot of studios have been so reliant on the giant numbers that can come from places like China, even though the actual raw return on their investment isn't nearly as much as they would say. I talk about this also because we look at some of the biggest budget films of this year. Films like The Suicide Squad, films like Jungle Cruise, films like Space Jam 2, Black Widow, Fast 9, all of these movies, with the exception of Fast 9, which actually posted right over $600 million worldwide. But even that movie, there's still a lot of, I think if you dive into the numbers, not nearly as great of a story there. But in all those other cases, what you see are films that cost roughly $150 to $200 million, all looking at almost $100 million losses by the end of their runs. Again, talking about some of the films that have just come out recently, we see, again, a film, for instance, what is this, like Jungle Cruise? Yeah, so Jungle Cruise is looking at $188 million potential loss for the movie. You're looking at a film like Snake Eyes, for instance. Snake Eyes is looking at $103 million loss. You're looking at other films to, again, like Black Widow, for instance, losing around $100 million or so at the box office. Again, it's just one of those things where, or at least in the case of Black Widow, more like around $80 million or so of a financial loss for it. The other big one was Space Jam 2, which is going to lose around $120 million or so. And you look at these movies and you start to realize that Dune is really in a position, and all big budget films are in a position where it's not going to be everything going just right. The numbers just aren't there. Even in a best case scenario, and I would say that Fast 9 would be a great example of that, you're still looking at a movie that made over $200 million of its entire box office return from China, where it only gets 25% of it, which means it only gets 50 million of that 215 million. And that, again, when you break it down, realize that that really isn't all that successful when you compare it to the $200 million production budget for a film like that. So this movie is going to be, I think, in a very difficult spot. Again, $160 million or so production budget. A lot of people are comparing it to Blade Runner 2049, which was another major big budget film. Which was also directed by Denis Villeneuve. I'm a big fan of Denis Villeneuve. I think that he's one of the best directors working at this time. But especially when you look at a film like Blade Runner 2049, that movie was $150 to $200 million budget, very similar to Dune, and it only made around $260 million worldwide. And one of the biggest factors, too, that has to be coming into play is that when you look at a film like Blade Runner, and you look at the story, the universe, it's a very small niche community that's a big into the Blade Runner franchise, right? It's not really one of those commercial franchises where everyone's like, oh yeah, I love Blade Runner. It's awesome. Normally there's hardcore fans of that Blade Runner universe. And so therefore, when the film came out, it was, even during that time when it came out, it was coming at a time when there wasn't pandemic. There wasn't all of this stuff going on with movie theaters. And so that movie still struggled to make any money, even though it looked gorgeous and the trailers were really cool. And for me, I really enjoyed the movie in general. And when you look to a movie like Dune, you almost see it's in the same situation because Dune is also very much a niche property. You look to the original film. I personally did not like the original film. I know a lot of people are fans of the novel and the entire series of novels in that universe, but you look at it and there's clearly a niche audience for it. And because of that, one cannot help but compare it to what we see with Blade Runner 2049. The only thing that might be able to help the movie be able to get past those things is that it does feature some younger talent, people like Zendaya and Timothée Chalamet. But this is also something I've mentioned in previous videos. Stars don't really sell tickets anymore. We've seen this especially with a film like Jungle Cruise, which is set to be one of the biggest flops of the year. Dwayne Johnson's one of the biggest names. He has one of the biggest social media presences out there, and yet people are not going out to go see his movie in any real large capacity. So that film's going to be a major flop. And so even if you take into account the younger actors and star power that might be able to bring people out, is it really going to be enough? I don't really see any indication that there's anything to point to that being the case. But I wanted to talk about this in a more formal video, and obviously this is covering pretty much any other big budget film set to come out this year, because when we look to all of the big budget films that have come out so far, when we look to the trends, it's not trending upwards every single time. And again, I think Jungle Cruise is a great indication of that. I think that it should make anyone who is looking forward to these movies or anyone that cares about any of these properties should, I think, be a little concerned if they want these properties to succeed, because they are going to be facing some very troubling odds. And the biggest of which is that people just aren't really going to the movie theater anymore. I know that Gary has talked about this over on his channel Nerdrotic, where he's mentioned that he's gone out to these films on the day of their release and he's just seen where no one's in the theater. And it's in a community where in former times there would be a lot of people in there going to support these movies. And these are, again, this is the state of the way the box office is working right now. And that's why it always drives me nuts when you see people over on Deadline or other tracking websites where they try and spin it as if it's really good or a strong opening, when you really compare it to the numbers they spend on these movies, it just really isn't the case. But anyway, what are y'all's thoughts? Do you think that Dune is going to be successful? Again, I don't see a position where everything's going to go just right, because there's no indication that we're even moving in that direction at this point. In fact, we might even be moving in the opposite direction, because so many states and cities across the country are still freaking out over all the stuff that's going on and going to try to shut things down again and try and put more implementations of mandates and everything that's going to just drive more people to say, okay, well, I'd rather stay at home. So what are your thoughts about this? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, smash that like button, light up that fire button. It really does mean a lot. You guys are all amazing, beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my August Locals, Patreon, and Subscribe Star members. Starting off with my Locals crew: Cat's App, The Real It, D Sharp, Biffer the Hobbit, Robert Barnes, and Goblin Squatch. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on Locals. And now on to my Patreon members: Andrew Hoyle, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Dion, Don Bruno de la Mancha, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toone, Jonathan Carney, Lance, Laura, the Modern Major General's Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Allen, Teresa Martin, Theodore Benden, Tina Bojan, and Tina B, the Empress of the Universe. Thank you very much for supporting me over on Patreon. And lastly, to my Subscribe Star peeps, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, John B, Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J-Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK Man. Thank you all very much for supporting me on Subscribe Star, and to everyone for supporting me on these platforms. Also, a shout out to all of my YouTube members. You get shouted out at the end of every single live stream. And if you want to have your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and every video, please check out my locals Patreon Subscribe Star. And you can go ahead and find those links in the top link of this description. You can find it's called the Willow link, and it'll have a list to literally all of the social media platforms and all the different ways that you can support the channel. If you join at the $1 level, you can actually get your name shouted out at the end of every single video and live stream. $5 level gives you that, plus you get access to exclusive giveaways of 4K titles. Right now, I've got tons of 4K steelbooks to give away this month, including for Top Gun. I also have A Quiet Place Part 2. I have Snatch on 4K, the John Wick trilogy on 4K, and also I have a Sicario 4K disc as well, and a bunch of others that are going to be coming in this month too. So if you want to have access to any of those types of exclusive giveaways, join at the Army of Asgard level. At the $10 level, the Keeper of the Bifrost level, you get all of that, plus you get access to exclusive behind-the-scenes videos, including instant reactions when I go to see movies. I do quick little filmings of myself and talk about the films that I have seen and my instant reactions to that. You also get access to an exclusive podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger once or twice a month, and you get to also ask us any question that you want. We put a Q&A post up, and you get to ask us whatever it is that you want to ask. So again, if that sounds cool to you, Keeper of the Bifrost level. And lastly, there is the Chosen of Valhalla level, where you get all that stuff. Plus, in your first month as a Chosen of Valhalla member, you get a free t-shirt, your choice, ship it anywhere in the world, and also you get to once a month be featured on the OMB Reviews channel, and you get to talk with me. We usually chill out for 3 to 4 hours, and I ask everyone what they've been watching, what they want to talk about, what they want to promote, and it's always a really good time. And so if that sounds interesting to you, please consider joining. That is going to be on Subscribe Star and on Patreon only, as Locals is just the Keeper of the Bifrost level. But anyway, thank you all very much for your time, for your support, and for listening to this shout-out video. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.